Yes, they fought savagely, for they were a primitive people, and self-preservation is a primitive instinct.
It is imperative to the discussion of curatorial work and the representation of items of indigenous culture to acknowledge the vast and unending effects of colonialism, both in its presence within contemporary interpretation and translation, but too in the survival of native customs and dress. Decolonization relates to the deconstruction of ideologies perpetuated by the forced implantation of Western values, laws, culture, and social practices onto an indigenous people. It is the reaction to and challenge of oppression born of colonialism. Native practices in art are often depicted as being primitive, inferior due to a difference in available technology and what the writer of history interprets as a misuse of priority and growth. Unlike the styles seen in Europe of Impressionism and Baroque, native culture holds deep value in craft, handmade works of varying material interlaced with the motif of stories and colors of nature's life. The Huipil serves a purpose greater than an item of dress. It is an identifier, a connector to indigenous Mayan heritage, to a culture that predates colonialism and succeeds despite insistence of assimilation. Guatemalan activist Rigoberta Menchú writes in her 1985 autobiography, "We express ourselves through our designs, through our dress. Our huipil, for instance, is like an image of our ancestors." It is then that with acceptance to the 1992 Nobel Peace Prize, 500 years after Christopher Columbus claimed to have discovered the heavily populated and greatly developed New World, Rigoberta Menchú wears the huipil on the global stage.
Fashion curation was one of the topics that we discussed in our class, Fashion and Dress Beyond the West, before even starting the process of our final assignment. We talked about curatorial practices, looked at exhibits in museums like the Met, and most importantly, discussed proper ways of displaying dress while giving credit to the artists and the community that the objects are from. One of the most eye-opening experiences that we had in said class was our visit to the Field Museum in Chicago, where we looked at the Native Truths, Our Voices, Our Stories exhibit. This is actually a corrected version of the exhibit that was a 4-year-long project that was created with the guidance of 11 Native American scholars and museum professionals and in partnership with 130 collaborators representing over 105 tribes. On display currently are works from contemporary Native artists juxtaposed to historical artifacts, along with detailed descriptions of what the objects are used for and what the featured symbolism historically means. It also addresses current issues such as threats to native land and the rights of tribal nations to govern themselves. The space is highly interactive and truly dedicated to the Native voices and their stories. In contrast, the Native North American Hall before this installation has been a problematic one to say the least. The previous exhibit that opened in the 1950s that was on view until 2019 featured indigenous American items of everyday use in overcrowded cases with vague descriptions. The clothing items were displayed on faceless mannequins, and you could even find animals in glass cases. The updated version of the hall has been an inspiration for our final, which was the curation of an exhibit at our school library. For this project, we started out by researching huipiles that were donated to the Fashion Study collection here at Columbia. The only information that we had about them was that they're from the Mayan community of Guatemala, and so we had to determine what area they came from, their time period, as well as figuring out the meaning behind the colorful symbols featured on the front and back of the Huipiles. We were divided into 4 curatorial groups, where each of us addressed a different topic about them. One group researched how a huipil is worn in different cultural contexts. Some students addressed any lingering questions that the class couldn't solve. My group decoded the symbolism, and another group even made a video on how a huipil is made, which highlighted how long of a process it is.
Ready.
All right, camera is rolling. Can I get that snap? Sound is speeding. Ready when you are in action.
So here I have a backstrap